Hello everyone, my name is Peyton Blanco, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the cinematic elements of James Cameron's 1986 blockbuster Aliens. Now, Aliens is different than its 1979 predecessor directed by Ridley Scott, Alien, a creative choice from Cameron that stems from a shift in genre. While Alien is primarily a horror, the sequel here is an action film, and I want to at least begin to discuss why I feel like this is the case. Now, in my opinion, much of the commercial and critical success that this film received is a direct result of its standing as an action film. We'll talk more about why action later, but first let's consider why not horror. In Alien, much of the horror stems from the unknown of the xenomorph, what it looks like, how and when it's going to attack, and how the crew may survive is much of how that film works. If Cameron were to simply repeat Scott's formula here, which he likely easily could have, the novelty of the fear factor probably wouldn't have worked quite the same. It was important for Cameron to change, to expand the world of LV-426. This change centers all around Ripley, the protagonist of the story, and the mise-en-scène reflects this change. In Alien, the look of the ship feels futuristic, yet there's a sense of familiarity to the set pieces. As the xenomorph takes out the crew members, that sense of comfort and familiarity is breached. However, in Aliens, Ripley, 57 years into the future, explores a new setting that features a much darker, less comforting environment as she goes out to explore the abandoned moon colony of LV-426. The set pieces quite literally feel out of this world, although machine guns and rifles are still just as prevalent this time. Taking a look at some of the mise-en-scène of this film, Cameron uses low-key lighting and shaky cam to enhance the tension of the film, and crafts scenes that now feel suspenseful in their own unique way. Whatever the audience sees in these action scenes is conveyed through Ripley's own emotions. In a way, the dark and mysterious set design is a product of Ripley's own psychological horror, and thus her fight to overcome that conflict. One notable use of clever cinematography in Aliens is how the film uses color palettes to tell its story and establish Ripley's character, as just mentioned. The overall palette of the film takes on a dark navy tone that works to establish a more mysterious and suspenseful mood. But one scene where this changes is the facehuggers' attack on Ripley and Newt. Take a look at how this scene begins. There's a yellow lighting that illuminates the bunker as Ripley comforts and reassures Newt. Here, the yellow signifies Ripley's warmth and protection towards her, a protection that will soon be tested as Ripley quickly recognizes that they are in danger. As Ripley and Newt desperately try to call for help, the yellow palette is replaced by the blue we've seen throughout the time on the LV-426 base. As Ripley uses a match to set off the fire alert, the blue is replaced by a red alarm system, which distinctly signifies immediate danger as the facehuggers begin to attack. In addition to color palette, what the audience sees and how they see it is also vastly important. If the cinematography of a story does not match the actual content, there will be a disconnect between the filmmaker's vision and the viewer's eye. Taking this scene, Ripley's struggle for survival and motherhood being explicitly disrupted by Burke, is extremely important here, and the cinematography of the scene supports that. I also want to talk about the use of sound in Aliens, because I think it's one of the most effective pieces of film form used throughout the film, actually winning an Oscar for Best Sound Design. Taking place in a futuristic, highly advanced, and unknown society, the world has to feel real if it's to be effective and thus threatening, and that feeling comes from what we hear. In order to create this dramatic illusion, sound has to work on all four levels, and I want to highlight two sequences from the same scene. First, listen to how, without a word from Ripley, so much is built in this climactic scene.
Attention, emergency. All personnel must evacuate immediately. You now have 14 minutes to reach minimum safe distance.
Using the computer intercom to establish a sense of time, mixed with the ambient sounds of the elevator lowering down to the most dangerous layer on the base, to the sound effects of Ripley loading the gun, I feel that much of the catharsis to this short moment can be attributed to what we hear. Another example is Ripley's search for Newt, with the tracker that Ripley uses to locate Newt representing the beating heart of a mother figure attempting to save her child. Ripley's arc to this point has been about overcoming both the internal and external obstacles that have plagued her to this point, and at the film's climax, we see her arc come into full fruition with not a sense of peace and acceptance for her trauma, but a rightful and an embraced mother role. This is important, and it takes me full circle in discussing the overall essence of the film. Previously, I made a claim that with all of the advancements in society that we've seen, there's still such a reliance on modern firearms to defeat this army of faceless, morally one-dimensional monsters. And it begs the question as to why this film garnered so much success as an action sequel to a horror film. At surface level, Aliens is about Ripley learning to overcome her own psychological trauma that the events of the first film caused her. Taking a deeper look at this, how Ripley can do this is not strictly on a psychological level, but through taking matters into her own hands and simply shooting the monsters. She must refuse to trust the sleazy, money-hungry Burke, but instead the masculine and brave Corporal Hicks. Furthermore, she must take on the role of the mother figure to Newt. In Cameron's director's cut, which I haven't covered to this point, so I won't focus on it too much, there's a subplot where Ripley laments the loss of her daughter, who she abandoned to go on her initial quest. By taking on and saving Newt, Ripley redeems herself on a maternal level, which, according to the film, is perhaps her most essential. In my eyes, Alien is not just a pinnacle for the action genre, but the 1980s American blockbuster as a whole, a time when the solution was gun-ho vigor, and Ripley's arc in this film greatly embodies that idea. It also supports how Ripley has stood the test of time as a highly celebrated American film hero. Overall, I find Aliens to be about one's ability to overcome trauma not stemming from a psychological, emotionally restorative sense of healing, but rather the capability to put your head down and fight with physical toughness. So there is my analysis and take on James Cameron's Aliens. While I may be critical of the more thematic and philosophical undertones that the story presents, I still believe that it's an exceptionally made film on a technical level, and I quite enjoyed looking at the deeper cinematic elements and placing it on a grander, more comprehensive scale. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.